So I had a seizure on my birthday. Wow, what a title. I don't know, that might sound clickbaity, but that's true. That's what happened and well, now I'm talking about it. So, welcome back fans and frenemies to another bizarre Nate Speaks where I tell you about something weird and random. And today it's going to be that time last week where I had a seizure and also it was my birthday. But I'm also going to actually start a bit before that because some of you might recall on my fun dancing cat video where I said in the description that I'd been having some health problems recently. You may think that I'm about to say that it's related to the seizure, and I'm not going to say that. What I'm actually going to say is that, in a completely unrelated series of events, last month I had like 5 kidney stones in 10 days. And that sucks. That was not fun for me. Um yeah, no, 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Um so I don't know if you've ever had a kidney stone or you know what having a kidney stone is like. Now, I've never given birth, but I have spoken with several people who have given birth and have also had kidney stones. And several of them have told me that it is either about the same amount of pain or kidney stones was worse. So, suffice to say, it hurts a lot. So, this whole shtick starts on, I got my document here on Wednesday, June 27th. So I was awake, I was drawing, I was at my computer, and it was about 3 in the morning that like a sudden, sharp, extreme, like lower back pain started. And within like 15 minutes, it went from like no pain to I'm having trouble breathing, you know? And I've had some kidney issues like in the past. When I was 18, I had a really severe kidney infection. And like I tapped out at like a fever of like 105. It was the first time I was ever on like IV fluids. It was a whole I'm not gonna get into it, but it was a whole time. I had my first kidney stone at 16, so I got issues. And apparently they're all caused by me being chronically dehydrated. So drink water, folks. If you take anything from this story, it's drink your water. Um, so I knew where my kidneys were. So I knew that the pain that I was having was coming from my kidneys. I correctly identified the location. Um, I didn't take any painkillers because I knew that it was bad enough that I was going to the hospital. So I didn't take anything because I knew they were going to give me something and I didn't want to mess it up. So I got to the ER. I didn't have to wait very long, luckily, because it was 3 in the morning. So yeah, no, they gave me some IV fluids and an NSAID painkiller and IV, all good. I got an ultrasound and they didn't do a CAT scan, so they need a CAT scan to actually see the stone like in there. But they did an ultrasound, and the ultrasound showed that it was swollen in the area, which happens when there's a stone. So they were like, "All right, you've had kidney stuff before. You clearly identified the location correctly, and you seem familiar with it, and we see evidence that there's pain in your kidney. So it probably is a kidney stone. All signs point to kidney stone. So we're not going to do a CAT scan because that's radiation. So, um, we're just gonna skip that. So I'm not, by then I wasn't in pain. It was like 8 in the morning. And they're like, all right, well, seems like you're fine now. So, yeah, probably just a kidney stone. We'll send you home. And I was like, okay, cool, cool, cool. So I went home. Um, all was well. And then on Thursday, everything was fine. No issues. And then on Friday, June 29th, around 11 p.m., a sudden, sharp, and extreme pain in my lower back began again. Yeah, they asked me, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 at the ER, and I said 9 out of 10 both of these times. Because I'm saving that 10 out of 10, because, um, saving that one. But yeah, again, I identified it as probably like it feels like a kidney stone, but it seemed really weird to be back the day afterward. Um, this time though, like once I got to the ER, like I started feeling better. Um, and so this time they did do a CAT scan, but they did it after I'd started feeling better. So later they would deduce that I probably had passed it in between when the pain started and when I got the CAT scan. So they didn't see a stone when they scanned me. And this led to some confusion of, okay, well, you're in a lot of pain, but there is no stone. That's weird and wonky. So everyone was pretty confused. Incredibly me, especially me. Um, Also, it confirms that I don't have any renal scarring, which is great because I actually had thought that I had renal scarring uh, until this point. Um, I did find out that I was very constipated, so that's really fun. Um, didn't remember the last time I had pooped, so you know, they gave me a laxative and sent me home. And then on Saturday I was fine. Everything was great again. That false sense of security where you think, okay, I'm good now. Sunday, I woke up with mild but noticeable kidney pain again. So this time it took a couple of hours to like slowly get worse instead of coming on really fast. But by 2 p.m., I was like at a 6 or 7. And so I was like, all right, screw this. I gotta go to the hospital. So I gave up and I called my boyfriend to come and take me to the hospital. Oh, but I had to get driven to the hospital all 3 of these times, by the way. I had not been able to drive myself. Um, so I got up and I go to the ER. And by the time I actually arrive, which is only a 20-minute drive or less, I'm back at a 9. Only now it's the middle of the day on a weekend. So it is incredibly busy and it takes me forever to get seen and it sucks. It's super miserable. So like I said, the other 2 times I'd been given an NSAID painkiller via IV. This time, the doctor that saw me was like, "What the hell are you back here for?" So I got morphine, tramadol, and a lidocaine patch. So this is the first time I've ever had morphine. And despite the fact that, it's morphine, I was still in pain. Like, I could still feel it. So I was having a rough time. Yeah, so this time they did another ultrasound and I got a full pelvic scan. My kidney's swollen again. So yeah, no, my bladder and ovaries and fine and everything. They're still really confused because I know in hindsight now it was a bunch of kidney stones, but because of that confusion with the CAT scan, they're all very confused, like what's wrong with you? Um, Also, just as a side note, every time I am going to the hospital, um, because I have because I have a set of ovaries, I had to get a pregnancy test before I was allowed to be given pain medication every single time, despite the fact I was going back like less than 24 hours later. Um, and it takes like half an hour to 40 minutes to come back. So I would get in and then they would take some blood and test it and I would just have to wait in, horrible pain, wailing and sobbing for like 40 minutes until they were like, "Yeah, you're super not pregnant." Like again, I am on birth control, so I really can't even, didn't like that at all. Um, and so then the next day was a Monday, and that day I was fine again. And then Tuesday I went. I had an appointment to see like a specialist, like a kidney specialist. So I went through all like my whole medical history and everything. So he sends me off to get a renal scan later that month. So I'm, I am scheduled to come back in 2 weeks. I'm like, hey, I don't know if that's a great idea because every other day I have been going to the emergency room. I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait 2 weeks. And he just didn't take me seriously at all and sent me home. And yeah, what a surprise. Wednesday. Um Wednesday, the pain began again. So yeah, no, I was given an IV and said painkiller again. But I was told again, I was there during the day. I was kind of more like evening. Like I remember I was there around 8 o'clock, but I think I got there like 5. I don't remember. But I was told there was no way to get that test any sooner. So, like even though I was, at the emergency room at the hospital. So yeah, I ended up leaving. I was there all night, I think. I ended up leaving like midday the next day. And I already like when they discharged me, I already wasn't feeling well. Like as soon as the painkiller was starting to wear off, I was already like, I don't feel great. Like, I think I'm feeling worse again. And they're like, oh, well, just go home. And I'm like, okay. So I go home. I take a nap. I'm exhausted. I only get like 2 hours of sleep before I'm woken up because I'm in a lot of pain. And I'm back at an 8. I'm back at an 8, 9. So I go back to the emergency room again. Um, and, it's around 1 in the morning, and I basically never stop being in pain. They let me in and eventually get me pain medication, but it was really clear to me this time that the doctor does not believe me that something was wrong. So, like, my test results say that, like, my kidneys are functioning correctly, like, nothing seems to be wrong with me. So she's like, I can't help you. Your test results are fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, no, there's something wrong with me. You just don't know what it is because I'm in like extraordinary pain. I can't walk. I can barely breathe. Like you don't understand. And she's like, listen, we send people in pain home all the time. And I'm like, lady, I got a pretty good pain tolerance. Something is wrong with me. And again, at this time, nobody knew what was wrong with me because like I know now that it was kidney stones, but at that point they had no idea. They didn't know what was wrong with me. Maybe I was dying. Who knows, right? Um anyway, my boyfriend threw a fit and I thought she was going to come back with security at the time. But yeah, no, instead they admitted me and was like, "Fine, fine, fine. We'll let you into this hospital." So I spent the day in the hospital. I was got some IV oxycodone. And thank you God, I finally got to sleep because I'd been in so much pain and it was awful. I test all my fluids. I'm given some IVs. It's a rough time. Um, anyway, then I talked to a urologist. I ended up talking to 3 urologists. Geez. They went through a bunch of stuff. Like they had a bunch of theories. And then I had another ultrasound. And then I talked to a radiologist and yada 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 yada. Lots of stuff. Got a renal scan. And that was testing to see if I had a congenital, like, malformation in my kidneys, like if the valve didn't close properly. But I didn't. So, it's just kidney stones. I just had like 5 of them in a row. Yeah, so that sucks. Anyway, so finally I go home and, the urologist I saw said, hey, so here's the thing. If you don't get any more, then it's kidney stones. If you do, come back immediately because it's something else. And I said, okay, whatever. And I went home and I didn't have anything happen for a couple of days. And I'm feeling much better. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling better. But I'm also, I guess I'm constipated again because I haven't gone to the bathroom in like days. But I'm feeling better. And so after like 4 or 5 days, I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I'm instead of going to the ER though, I'm like, oh, let me go to any urgent care because this isn't super like it's not an emergency. I just need to see a doctor. Like because I know sometimes like, there could be something in there that's like blocking you up or something and then you need surgery. And I'm like, I should talk to someone before it gets any worse. So I go to an urgent care and I'm like, "Hey, can you see me?" And the lady says, and I quote, "I'm sorry, we're out of x-rays." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" So she tells me that I have to go to the ER because they're out of x-rays. So I go back to the ER and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I don't want to be here. I know you guys are sick of seeing me. As far as I know, there's nothing really wrong with me. The urgent care told me to go here, and I don't know what else to do. I just need an x-ray." And that same doctor saw me again and she was like, "We're not admitting you this time." I'm like, "I don't want to be admitted. Listen, I'll wait here for 9 hours. I'm not in pain. I don't care. Triage me at the bottom. It's fine." Um, yeah, so finally they did an x-ray and they're like, "No, you're fine. Here's a different laxative." And they took it and I went home. Finally I was better. And then the worst thing is my GP was like, "Okay, I diagnosed you with never having had enough water in your life." So I had to just completely change my diet. So I had to drink way more water. I had to cut out basically everything that wasn't water from my diet, and I added a bunch of wet foods in, like um, salad and yogurt and just berries, just anything that like has a lot of liquid in it naturally. So I'm also an incredibly picky eater, so it's very difficult. So that was all super duper fun and awful. So that was like the last half of July, yes, first half of August. Miserable, hated it. And so then, I spent the rest of August and September fine. Everything's great. Um, and I October. So I was really looking forward to my birthday this year because it was on a Friday. So that's really exciting. I can do something. That Saturday I had some fun plans to have my friends over and we were all going to get canvases and follow a Bob Ross tutorial. It was going to be great. Um Prior to this, in the past, I've had 3 separate instances where I thought I might have had a seizure, but no one else was around, so I couldn't be sure. The first one, I'd actually been asleep, and I woke up, and I just had this feeling, like this gut feeling. My brain was saying over and over, "I think I just had a seizure." And like the last time I broke my foot, I landed, and my first thought was, "I think I just broke my foot," and I was right. And this was that same kind of gut feeling of, I know something just happened. I don't know exactly why I know that, but I know that. But nobody saw anything. And this was right before the pandemic started. So I was like, "Oh, I should see a neurologist or something." But then the lockdown happened and got other things happening. And then at some point, I don't even know when, but sometime between then and now, I had another instance where I had been awake. I was still like in bed. I'd been sitting, like reorganizing. Like I have a pin board on my wall. I think that's what I was doing. Anyway, so I've been sitting there, and then I kind of like woke up, and like I didn't remember passing out or anything. I just remember coming back and feeling very strange. And so that time I was sure something had happened because I'd been awake. So I talked to my GP about it, and he thought it might have been an absence seizure, but again, nobody saw anything, so I just couldn't really be sure. Um, and the third instance was pretty similar, but I don't remember really what it was specifically. Anyway, so that's like the background on that. Of there's been a couple of times when I thought I might have, but nobody else saw anything. So this time, it's my birthday. It's a Friday. I'm sitting on my couch. I'm watching Project Runway. It's great. I'm having a great time. I'm sewing a button onto a jacket for my roommate. And everything is great. It's a beautiful day. I'm so happy and everything's fun. Look at me. It's my birthday. And then I wake up and I'm on the floor and I don't remember falling asleep or passing out. I don't remember like exiting consciousness. I just remember returning to it. And well, I felt, well, man, I was really confused and disoriented and like completely lost. And my roommate is there and he's panicking and he's like, oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "What? I'm fine." "What?" Like, why am I on the floor? So he tells me that apparently, I started convulsing and did so hard enough that I fell right off the couch. And then I started frothing at the mouth. And then, that just went on for 2 full minutes. Um, I think he'd already called an ambulance and my boyfriend, and they were both on the way. I was just like, it's fine. What? Nothing. I got up and I like, walked away like, "Oh, I gotta go put some pants on if the the ambulance is coming." And he's like, "No, hang on." Uh, so yeah, I really was like completely out of it. And then, the ambulance came and wow, whew, that's the first ambulance ride I've ever had. Um, but I had to answer a bunch of questions and you know, ambulance, blah, blah, blah. Got to the hospital, got me all checked in. Talked to the neurologist. They did a CAT scan on my brain. I got an MRI, and oh, and then I had like an EEG where they put a bunch of electrodes on my head, and that was me all night. I just had to spend like 24 hours with that on my head. So, like I had a big tube sock. I'll show a picture, but I had a big tube sock on my head for like 2 days, and then I had an IV in my arm because they do that when you're in the hospital. So if they have to give you medication for something, they can do it really quickly because they've already got the IV in your arm. So they just leave like a tap in your arm, but it's really difficult to sleep on. It's really annoying. So I was just hooked up to a bunch of stuff, and yeah. Then at the end, they gave me something called Keppra, and they're like, okay, well this might have been is probably caused by the medication you're on. I take I take an antidepressant. And I won't get into all the specifics of those, but one of the ones I'm on has a side effect that can cause seizures, and they're like, that's probably it. Most likely you'll be taking Keppra from now on, which is a twice daily medication that prevents seizures. At least I'm told. If you know better than me, you know, you might know better than me. Anyway, so I got a prescription for Keppra, and that is what I take now. Because I had a seizure on my gosh dang birthday. And yeah, no, I spent the rest of my birthday in the hospital and then the rest of the next day too. And I didn't get to go home until the day after that. It was, ugh, what a whole thing. And so, the thing about that is because I was so busy with health stuff, I wasn't drawing, which means I wasn't drawing. So, I have things queued up, so like I have next week's video already done. It's already ready to post, you know? And I like to have at least like 3 or 4 videos done ahead of time, and you know, I usually I'm usually really good at just having stuff done in advance. You know, because once you've got like 3 built up, then you just keep that 3 built up for a while until you have a health emergency, and then you go 3 weeks without getting anything done, and so suddenly you have no queue left. So I've been scrambling for basically ever since I had those kidney stones to try to get my queue back together, and I was just finally starting to feel comfortable again, and then I had this then I had a seizure, and it's just been goofing me up all week. So fun and exciting. And that's my incredible, amazing health adventure lately, and the time that I had a seizure on my birthday. Yeah. So you just to say, you're allowed to laugh at this. It's allowed to be a funny story because I'm fine now. So you don't need to like be. I don't need any like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry, or you know, whatever in my prayers or anything in the comments. I don't need anything of that. You're allowed to say, like, LOL, you dumbass, why didn't you go to a doctor earlier, or something, you know? That's fine. You know, don't worry about my feelings. But yeah, no. So that's my story time of the week. Thank you for listening. I'm trying to do more Nate Speaks videos. I didn't really have a script for this video, you know, I just had some talking points ready, and I'm trying to do more of these because you guys keep asking for them, and that's the story I got this week. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Nader's out.